students, today we are studying a lesson, tissues, animal tissues. This is part 2 of the lesson, tissues, plants and animals tissues. This is a lesson for standard 9 biology. Now let's continue with part 2. In part 1, we studied about plant tissues, and I hope you must have gone through the lesson and you must have learnt about the various tissues that make up the bodies of the plants. Now let us quickly revise how does this level of organization happen. So the basic structural and functional unit are the cells. After the cells, many cells together which perform a specific function, have a common origin, they make up tissues. Many tissues together, they make up the organs. Many organs together make up the organ system. And many organ systems together, they make up the body of organism. So this was a quick recapitulation. Now let us understand what are the tissues that make up the bodies of the animals. Hence we need to classify them because they have specific functions, they have specific processes to deal with. Let us classify animal tissues. Look at the 4 types of animal tissues shown to you here in the flow chart. We have the epithelial tissue, the connective tissue, the muscular tissue and the nervous tissue. Each one of these have their specific locations in the body of the animal and their specific function. Together, it makes up the entire organism. So let us study them one by one. Now let us study the first kind of tissue, first kind of animal tissue, the epithelial tissue. See, the word epi means like a cover, outside. Let us study the characteristics. If it's a cover, if it is covering something, what should it be like? The name cover itself tells us that it is covering something. Now see, it has to be thin because it's covering the various organs outside, inside the body. If it's a cover, again it is meant to be protective in nature so that it shields that part, the body of the organism or the part of the organism from something from outside or inside. Now let's see continuous sheet of cells. When I'm saying sheet of cells, again it is bringing us back to the fact that it is its nature to be covering. It cannot have gaps and spaces in the middle. It has to be something continuous. If it is continuous, intercellular. What's the meaning of intercellular? Spaces between the cells. There is no space between the cells because it's a continuous sheet of cells. What would be the shape if something is making up something like a sheet? What could be the shape of the cells? The cells could have been flat because it's making a sheet. It can be cuboidal, cubes arranged close to each other without any gaps, or columns arranged close to each other without any spaces, intercellular spaces between them. Then, what could be its function? The functions, look at the functions, protective. Like our skin, it's covering the entire body, protection. It's providing protection to the internal organs. Whatever is under the skin. Then, absorption and secretion. When I say this absorption and secretion, look at the cells inside the intestines. They secrete digestive juices. This tissue secretes. Then absorption, it absorbs the food that is digested. So if you have to give an example of protection, you can say skin. You can use the word here, skin. Let me write skin here. Skin. And here we can say, let's see the cells of the intestine. Cells that are making up the tissues of intestines. Cells together making up the tissues of the intestine. Then sensory perception. So these are the main functions. Sensory. See our skin, it is sensitive to touch, to pressure. All the things that handle the sensory part are present in the skin. It's an epithelial tissue. So the functions. So let's quickly go through the functions again. Protective in nature, absorption and secretion. Secretion of what? I gave you an example of the tissues which are present inside the intestine making up the internal lining and the external lining of the intestine. Then internal lining will have these features of absorption and secretion. Then we have sensory perception. For example, again in the skin, which can feel heat, pressure and those other feelings that we can understand and our body can react to. Now look at the location of this epithelial tissue. Where it would be located? Covering the surface of the body. and lining of organs. So the internal organs also, the outer lining of the organs, the inner lining of the organs, both contains this kind of a tissue. They are present there. So understand the location, the characteristics, the shape and the function. This is in general about the epithelial tissue. Now we will deal with various kinds of epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue. Now let us classify the epithelial tissue. Let us see the main types. So we have classified it here into 4 main types, and that is squamous, cuboidal, columnar and stratified. Further, the columnar can be classified again into 2 types, ciliated and glandular. Now let us study squamous epithelium. Now here you can see that I have listed their features under various criteria. Let us look at the characteristics. These are the structural. That means we know what kind of cells it is made up of. When we are saying the word epithelium itself, then we have to, in your mind you have to associate it and you have to think, if something is an epithelium, what could be its shape, size, structure to allow it to carry out its function as an epithelial tissue. This is squamous epithelium. Let's see now. It is made up of thin, flat cells. I have drawn a little diagram for you all at that end. Look at the cells. Thin, flat. No intercellular spaces. See? Prominent nuclei. The nuclei you can see here. Prominent, very large. So, I am writing N for nuclei here. Then, closely packed. See? Totally joined to one another. They feel like they are very, very close. Like you see various tiles, flooring tiles, so closely packed. Now see, so these are the characteristics, structural, of what the cells that make up this look like. Where would it be found? A question can be asked to you in the exam. What is the location of squamous epithelium? So you have to tell. Where? Nasal cavities, lining the nasal cavities, lining of the mouth, lining of the blood vessels, of the lymph vessels. So, location. Function. If it is lining something and it is hence protection. It's protecting what is inside, underlying tissues. From what? From getting injured, from the entry of germs, and from chemicals that can touch it, and also it conserves its moisture. That means it doesn't allow the tissues that it is protecting to, the internal things that it is protecting, to dry out and lose its moisture. So this is squamous epithelium. As you go through various kinds of the epithelium, please list down the characteristic features so that it enables you to afterwards compare and to study its characteristic. Also in your mind associate it with its function so that you don't forget its structure. Cuboidal epithelium, again listed under the same criteria, characteristics, location and function. Look at the cells of the cuboidal epithelium, the diagram there. They are cube-like cells. When we look at it from top, we can see that they are looking like a horizontal, this way when we look at it from top, we can see that they are looking like a sheet of cells, all hexagonal in shape. And when we look at it from the side, we can see they are like cubes. So in section, they look like cubes. Now look at the location of the cuboidal epithelium. Where it is found? In parts of the kidney tubules, in some glandular ducts, inside the salivary glands and in the pancreatic duct. Remember these parts where the cuboidal epithelium is located. What is the function? Main function of the cuboidal epithelium is to provide mechanical strength to these parts. Let us study the columnar epithelium. See, the criteria are same again. Now let us look at the cells. Look at the cells here. They are more taller than broad. So the less broad and more tall. Hence they appear to be like columns. Look at the nucleus, more towards the base. Now, if we look at columnar epithelium, we can again classify them into two types or kinds. Ciliated columnar epithelium, I mentioned CE here, ciliated columnar epithelium, and glandular epithelium, that E is for epithelium. Now, what could be the location of ciliated? Lining of trachea. If I am saying that they are located at the lining of trachea. Here you see, they will have cytoplasmic projections like this. These are the cilia, cytoplasmic projections. And what does the cytoplasmic projection do? It helps to move something. Wherever we require movement of something in a certain direction, these cytoplasmic projections, they move in a kind of wave and they allow anything to move. So you should relate it with moving transporting something. Then the next kind is the glandular epithelium. Where would it be found? Glandular. Glandular, the word glandular, gland, it means that something is being secreted. So chemical substances, they can be digestive juices, they can be some other products of the body being secreted here. This glandular epithelium. Where could it be found? Lining of the stomach. Why in the stomach? Because stomach is secreting something, the lining of the stomach. Then intestines, again secreting digestive juices. So its location will be there. Here you can put down the location here because it's two types. I have put it there. Then we have the glands. The glands, sweat glands, tear glands. The skin folds into form these glands. Now you know the function of sweat glands, to produce sweat and to help in maintaining the temperature of the body. When sweat comes out, it evaporates, it cools the body. So that's it. And then we have the tear glands. So glandular epithelium found in these places, like the lining of the stomach, the intestine, and here you have the glands, the sweat glands and tear glands. Ciliated epithelium in the lining of the trachea. Ciliated columnar epithelium itself says that it has these cytoplasmic projections. So when you are studying the characteristics, this location is mentioned here. You can see because it's of two types, it's been described there. Stratified epithelium, several layers, stratified. The word here itself says that it is a structure which is made up of several layers of epithelial cells. Location, look at the cornea of the eye, you'll find it in layers. Skin is again in layers. And if it's so many layers are protecting something, its function naturally comes up to be protection. So when you all are studying these things, relate it to one another and relate it to the structure. Connective tissue. Again, the name conveys the message to us. Concerned with connecting parts of the body. Let's see what all it connects. Bones to bones, one bone to the other bone, bones to the muscles, tissues, binding the tissues together, giving support to all these structures. Then forming a packing around organs. Now the organs are there inside our body. If there was nothing holding them in place to fill the spaces between them, with a little movement they would have got displaced. So it forms a packing around the organs. What are the features? Abundance of intercellular spaces, spaces between the cell, big spaces. And the substance that fills up those spaces is called the matrix. Fewer cellular elements. Why? Because again it is something that is related to connecting and there are spaces between them. So the cellular elements are few, fibers. Now in case of fluid tissues, the fibers also are less. So this is how the connective tissue works. Again, let us see the types of the connective tissues. Let us look at the various types of connective tissues. Now connective tissue proper, supportive connective tissue and fluid connective tissue. Again further when we classify connective tissue proper, we'll find areolar tissues, adipose tissue and fibrous tissue. Areolar tissue, let's see what it is and where it is located. Located beneath the epidermis. And what does it help to do? It keeps the epidermis elastic of the skin. When we pull it, it goes back to its place. It's elastic. Then we have adipose. The name itself conveys the message what? That it's something that is containing fat. It's containing fat. Now, what does it do? It specially stores fat under the skin. If it is storing fat under the skin, it is providing like a cover, like a coat for insulating the skin. Then it forms the padding around the kidneys, eyeballs, etc. Adipose tissue. Fibrous tissue. What is it? Elongated cells. The name itself says something like a fiber. Elongated cells called fibers, and they are bundled together by areolar tissue. Now one by one, I'll show you a little diagram which will make you understand how all this works. Now look at this diagram of a fibrous tissues. They are bundled together in the areolar tissues. These are the cells, nucleus. Now these are the fibers and all located in the matrix. This everywhere here filled with matrix. So areolar tissues along with the fibrous tissue. Look at the adipose tissue. What are these round things? They are fat globules. These filling the inside. All these round things, fat globules. Now there is one term used called brown fat. brown fat. What is this brown fat? It is found in newborn mammals. Why it is found in them? So that it insulates them. So as they are out of the mother's womb, they are at a low temperature. So this insulates them and keeps them from shivering. They don't feel cold, they don't shiver because of this brown fat, which helps and insulates the body of a newborn mammal. So this is the fibrous. Look at these diagrams. You can be asked to identify which is the adipose tissue, which is the fibrous tissue. So you must know the diagrams. Now let us look at the fibrous tissue, the fibrous connective tissue. Again, there are two types, tendons and ligaments. What do the tendons do? They connect the muscle to the bone, muscle to bone, and they are inelastic. And the ligaments, bone to bone. They are elastic in nature. So this is a very important question can be framed out of it. What is a tendon? What is a ligament? Or it can be asked in name the following. Please know who connects what to what. Tendons, it connects the muscle to the bone, and the ligament connects the bone to the bone. Connective tissues, and the three kinds are mentioned here. The connective tissue proper, supportive connective tissue, fluid connective tissue. Now let's study the supportive connective tissue. Again, we have categorized it into two kinds. We have the cartilage and the bone. Where are the cartilage located? At the tip of the nose. You see, the tip of our nose is soft. That means you can easily identify the cartilage is here. Pinna, the external ear. Trachea, the bronchial tubes. Between vertebrae and ends of long bones. That is where the cartilage is located. And the bone, it makes up the skeleton. Everyone knows where the bones are. Now let us study the features of each one of these, their characteristics and what they are about. So the cartilage, it is non-porous. Bones, they are porous. Then transparent, semi-transparent we can say. Semi-transparent. And bones, they are not transparent, of course. Then look at the cartilage. It is no supply of blood vessels. Nerves, etc. also are not there. No supply of blood vessels. Now see, and the bone richly supplied. Rich supply of blood vessels. Now see, the bone, again, if we divide look at the structure of the bone, you will find that it is made up of two kinds of cells. The living cells. These living cells are also known as osteoblast. So if you are asked what are the living cells of the bone, you can say osteoblast. Then it has a rigid matrix. Rigid matrix. And what is that rigid matrix? It is made up of carbonates of what? Of inorganic substances like calcium, magnesium. These are inorganic. So you can see, if you compare the cartilage and bone, the cartilage again non-porous, bone porous, they have blood vessels, there is a rich supply of blood. Here you can see there is no supply of blood, it is semi-transparent. Now what would the cartilage do if it is placed between the long bones? It acts like a lubricant so that the bones move freely one over the other. Bones, of course, you know their function is to make up the skeletal system. Let us look now at the structure of the cartilage. This part in which the cells are suspended, semi-transparent, this is a cell. Here we have an empty lacuna, empty space, empty lacuna. this is the matrix. So if you are given this diagram and you are asked to identify what is it, then you can say it's the cartilage. You can see the structure of the cartilage. Draw a simple diagram but cover all the important parts. Now let us look at the bone. So these are the cells, bone cells. If you look at one, it will be something like this. Like this. Okay. Here. But here you can see they are these concentric lamellae. Okay, this is the Traversian canal of the bone. And you can see here the cells. Now this is the matrix, the rigid matrix. So that is how I learned to identify the cartilage and the bone separately. Fluid connective tissue, we have divided into two types for convenience of studies, blood and lymph. Let us look at blood. We have plasma and we have the cells. Cells are also, we can say, formed elements of the blood. Plasma is the fluid part of the blood. The cells, again, three types: RBC, WBC and platelets. RBC, you must know the full form: red blood corpuscles, white blood corpuscles, platelets. RBCs, erythrocytes, leukocytes. So if you are asked these various names, you should be aware of them. Now let us compare the three types of blood cells. Here I am drawing for you a simple diagram of the RBC. What does it remind you? It reminds you of the donut-like shape. So it is, here it is like this. Now why does this RBC have this special shape? Because it helps it in its function. It increases its area where it can carry oxygen to the tissues. So it increases its area and it helps us in its function. WBC, what is their main function? They fight with the germs. So they are like protecting the body from germ invasions. Look at the structure of WBCs. You can find these nucleuses like this bilobed, in some cases multilobed nuclei. Let us see, nucleus multilobed. Now, it's easy to identify. And the platelets, here, you can find them like this. What is the function of platelets? So when there is an injury, they go to the site of injury and help in clotting the blood. Now let us look at some more features. RBCs, when we are saying erythrocytes, what does it convey to us? It conveys that they are carriers of oxygen here. Now RBC, because of a pigment called hemoglobin, they appear to be brownish red in color. This pigment it helps to carry the oxygen to the tissues. Also it takes carbon dioxide back from the tissues. So it has this brownish red color. WBC are colorless. So on the basis of color, also you can compare RBCs and WBCs and platelets. So remember to note down their functions, their various names and their colors. RBCs many in number because they have a very short period of life, like about 120 days, and they get destroyed. So the number is more. WBCs little few less than RBCs. So on the basis of this criteria, please compare all the types of cells of the blood. Let us study the muscle tissue. Three types again: the striated ones, the unstriated muscles and the cardiac muscles. Just the name tells us what they are. Striated means they have these dark and light bands. If you look at, after this I'm going to draw the diagram of each of these muscles. So you'll see there'll be dark and light bands in these muscles. Unstriated ones, they won't have these dark and light bands. And the cardiac muscles, when we say the word cardiac, it means they are the heart muscles. Where are these? They are the visceral muscles. in the viscera of the body. And here they are the skeletal muscles, means attached to the skeleton. Now, striated muscles are voluntary in nature. They are under the control of the organism. So, here, voluntary. Unstriated, involuntary. And the cardiac muscles, of course, again they are not in our control. So, they are also involuntary. What are the striated muscles made up of? Long cells. So, they make these contractile fibers. This helps them to perform their functions. If they are skeletal muscles, they need to be flexible, they need to contract and relax so that movement can happen in the body. Hence, they are this way. They are contractile fibers. Multinucleated, striated of course, and they get tired. The muscles of our body, after working for a while, they get tired and they need rest. Where are they found? Everywhere. In the arms, legs, neck, face, everywhere, these striated muscles. Now, let's study the unstriated ones. Involuntary in nature, generally spindle shaped. Then uninucleated. Uni means one. Non-striated, you cannot see these light and dark bands which you can see here. Found in the walls of the intestine. Visceral muscles, I said. So, where are they found? In the walls of the intestine. They are not in our control. Muscles of the iris, again not in our control. Then kidney, the urinary bladder of the human. You can see visceral muscles. So, and then the lining of blood cells. Now, the cardiac muscles, they are clearly heart muscles, involuntary, because our heart, we cannot, on our will and wish, we cannot ask our heart to beat or stop beating. So, again uninucleate, striated. These are also, if you look at the structure of the cardiac muscles, you will find light and dark bands on them. They contract without outside stimulation. So, nothing from outside has to tell them to contract. Do not get tired. If the heart muscles get tired, the heart will stop functioning, the movement of blood around the body will stop functioning. So, nature has made it in a way where they don't get tired, and they are found exclusively in the heart. Now, let us look at some simple diagrams of each one of these muscles. Now, see the striated muscles. These are the dark bands. Dark band. Dark bands. These are the light bands. Light bands. The nucleus. Now, this membrane, this thin layer here, when we are seeing it in section, this is called the sarcolemma. Sarcolemma. Now, if we look at the unstriated muscles, see, spindle shaped. This is the matrix. These are the microfibrils. Fibrils with its nucleus. Look at the cardiac muscles, again striated. You can see light and dark bands. Inside will be this is the sarcolemma, we said sarcoplasm. So, comparative diagram of all the three kinds of muscles, striated, unstriated and cardiac muscles. Let us study the nervous tissue. It makes up the nervous system. Nervous system. Now, let us see the kind of cells that make up the nervous system. I am drawing for you. This is a very simple structure of a nerve cell, also known as a neuron. Let us label it. This part is the cell body, also known as the perikaryon. I am mentioning cell body here. Dendrites. These are the ends, this is the terminal ends, synaptic bulbs here. This part from here to here is the axon. There will be some granules here. This is the nucleus of the cell body. These granules are known as the Nissl granules. Now, what would be if something has to make up a wiring like structure? That is why these cells are long. They get together like this, and like how a building has electrical connections, the wires run through the building. Same way, these cells, they form long wires through which the nerve impulse is transmitted. That is why these cells are in this long elongated shape. So all these cells get together and they make up the nervous tissue. Now a bundle of this axon, it is called one bundle. When they are bundled together, they together make up the nerve. So what is the importance of this nervous tissue? That it is made up of these cells. What are these cells called again? These are called neurons. Neurons. So neurons, they make up this. Now the special feature about these neurons is, if they are damaged, they cannot be, again, new cells can't be made in the body, because first of all they don't have the centrosome. The centrosome initiates cell division, so these cannot be regenerated again. Hence, these together, they make up the nerves of the body. And what is the function of the nerves of the body? To carry impulses from the central nervous system to the periphery, from the periphery to the central nervous system, and they deal with transmission of nerve impulses.